Hey, what's up? Welcome back to part 2. So, I am probably going to spend some time reviewing the stuff I just wrote down from the news and also what happened in the news earlier in the week. Let's get started. What is the current state of the commercial real estate market as of the publishing date below, so December 19th? And what is the outlook for the upcoming 2024 year? And the article is the office market had it hard in 2023 and next year looks worse. So I believe in this article, the author talked about some of the trends in the going back to office and I guess the work from home. I don't know what to call it, state of the office, but it seems like the metrics that they've been tracking that the Wall Street Journal has cited that other people have been tracking. I think a few of them are Placer.ai and then also Castle Systems. So I think they're actually the companies that kind of help with the swiping into office. Whenever you go into an office, usually have a badge that you have to swipe in, and they keep track of all that stuff. And then there's also CoStar Group, which I think is in charge of just real estate analytics. They collect a lot of data on anything related to real estate, and they have a huge database of real estate related data. So they've been claiming that work from home, about 60% of the people that work in offices have actually been going back in office relative to, I think, pre-pandemic levels 2019. So I think that's like 40% choose to work from home or work from home on maybe some days. And that results in a lot of these office spaces being leased, but not really a lot of people is using them. And I think what's going on is that a lot of these office spaces, the leases will expire in the 2024 year. And so these companies that are really leasing out these office spaces may choose to find smaller office spaces or cheaper versions because it doesn't really make sense for them if a lot of people aren't coming into the office to have a really nice office space. And I think this, coupled with the fact that interest rates are currently not really high, but higher than they were before, around 5%. And it depends on what the economy is going to look like next year. I think there are some metrics pointing towards a recession. So one of them being a low savings rates and also low disposable income, especially for those who are less than, I think those who make less than 70K. This is another thing I've been reading in the news recently, that those people in the US who have been making less than 70K have had their disposable income decline for the past 5 quarters, and then also their personal savings rate be negative for the past 5 quarters. And so that means that they've been borrowing more than they've been earning, and they've been borrowing more than they've been saving. Oh, it's hot. I don't know if this is like the right way to do it because I got this little cup thing in the middle, this, to prevent the leaves from coming in, but it feels kind of weird to drink out of. I feel like I should have put the leaves on top. Oh well, you might see me make some weird faces here, I guess. But those are some of the key takeaways I think of this article, and let's see what this says. So occupancy rates are now recovering to pre-pandemic levels, meaning that people are now returning. Around 50 to 60% of them actually return to office space or full capacity. Okay. Office vacancy rates are higher, now forecasted to grow to 70% by 2026. OVC 10. Landlords are facing increasing pressure due to reduction of high interest rates and shifting work culture that is causing higher defaults. Okay, this one, give it a heart. Today's headlines from the markets on Saturday, December 23rd, 2023. So I think from the markets on the third week of December, so the S&P had finished its 8th consecutive week of gains. Also, I think on the business side, maybe I'll get to it, something to do with Israel economy facing pressures. I'm not too sure. The personal consumption price index fell 0.1% in November. No idea what that is. There's no consumption price index. So today's headlines, the USJ 10 point. So on Saturday, December 23rd, the headlines were that Israel's economy is facing some pressures due to its war against Palestine. So it seems like some of Israel's economy does depend on workers and consumers from Palestine. And because there really isn't any friendly relations between the two countries anymore, then there's some economic turmoil within Israel. And also a lot of the workers that are part of the military aren't able to actually contribute to the economy anymore because they're off fighting a war in Palestine, specifically. Wall Street has stopped worrying about OPEC because recent production cuts haven't led to sustained oil prices. Yeah, I'll be good for that. What's going on in the Red Sea? So I believe Yemen Houthi rebels that are backed by the Iranian government are attacking a lot of cargo carriers in the Red Sea, which is kind of this strip of ocean that connects the Mediterranean to the Pacific, I think. I have to double check. I remember I wasn't sure on this last time. Okay, so yeah, although it doesn't actually connect the Mediterranean. I guess the Mediterranean is connected with the Atlantic, but not the Pacific. Is there a canal, maybe? A Suez Canal? Okay, yeah, so there is. I guess this might be some dangerous. Oh, it's the Indian Ocean, not the Pacific. Okay, yeah, my geography was really wrong. But so the Red Sea, Yemen is right here. Okay, so I guess Yemen rebels are attacking some cargo carriers, and the U.S. is planning to launch some military campaign against them. What are some reasons why investors think that the S&P 500 surge is running to a valuation wall? Decade-long S&P 500 bull surge is running to Alana Popina published dates says yesterday. I think so we just read this, and I remember, so let's try to think. The AQR principal, Jordan Brooks, wrote some calculations down and suggested that the S&P 500 had an average annual return of 11.9% in excess of the risk-free rates or the treasury bill, and I believe this is a real return. So he suggests that in order for the S&P 500 to sustain this level of growth within the next 10 years, this 11.9% excess of the risk-free rates, then this would require the price to earnings ratio to be really high. I think at a record high of 55 at a 4.5% real growth rate in, I guess, in earnings. In earnings per year. And so he suggests that this level of growth is kind of unprecedented, and this level of valuation is kind of unprecedented. I think he makes some comparisons to the P ratio of 50 as being at the top of the tech bubble back in 2000. And so maybe there's some warning signs there, in the sense that the S&P 500 is probably going to run into a wall at some point that can be unsustainable. And then also, I think the core three things that should really be affected by economic activity that actually could promote an excess return of 11.9% in the future is if the earnings of companies grow, or if the valuations expand, which I'm not 100% sure what that means, but also if dividends continue to rise well. I wonder if any of these are actually lunch break. It's interesting. Expel. Where is multiple expansions? So I guess valuation expansion. So I guess multiple expansion is the idea of just multiples are increasing just because they're increasing. Maybe because of consumer sentiment, high expectations, whatnot. Forecast of earnings growth in 2024 and 2025 may be a bit unrealistic, 11%. Milder than expected. Okay, so there's been just 4 consecutive quarters of lower earnings growth, or I guess negative earnings growth. Yeah, a big one in 2020, but that rebounded very quickly due to stimulus packages. Alright, so the Cape. Yeah, this is an interesting case study in the future. If there's ever a huge stimulus given to consumers, then earnings will surely rebound. And this is a cyclically adjusted P ratio, so assumed real earnings growth rates. .1%. The max tech bubble. Post-war average 20% cyclically adjusted P ratio. So 30 max tech bubble. 50. Max tech bubble 44. What is the current state of the commercial real estate market as of the publishing date below, and what is the outlook for the upcoming 2024 year? Okay, so there's a high level of occupancy rates. I think 10% is the amount estimated for 2023 by CoStar, and I think that's going to go up to, or CoStar thinks it's going to go up to 17%. And then also, I think the one thing I was missing in the last time I was talking about this was that a lot of landlords are kind of defaulting, or landlords can, maybe not a lot, but some landlords are defaulting on their payments because of the high vacancy rates or higher vacancy rates, and so they're either selling their properties at a discount, or giving them back to kind of the bank or the mortgage lender. But also, companies like Placer AI, Castle Systems are kind of estimating that around 50 to 60% of people are actually going back into the office. Today's headlines from the markets: WSJ 10 points. So first, the S&P had its eighth consecutive week of gains. The personal consumption expenditures index, the price index, declined by 0.1% in November 2023, and also something about some type of tax credit, which I don't fully understand yet, so I'm just going to skip it for now. The employee retention tax credit. What are the successors of Berkshire Hathaway, and what are their backgrounds? So Greg Abel is going to be head of the non-insurance operations and be the CEO. G. Jane, head of insurance operations. Ted Welsh and Todd Coombs are going to be head of the investment arm of Berkshire Hathaway. And so this article really went in depth into the CEO, Greg Abel. And he was actually born and raised in Canada. I think graduated from a Canadian university and then ended up working for PwC as a public accountant. And then after working at PwC, he went into the energy business, specifically Cal Energy, one of the clients he had at PwC. And at Cal Energy, he was one of the people in charge of overseeing a merger between, I think, Northern Energy and Northern Electric in the UK. And I think he did a really successful job of merging the two companies together. Eventually became the new CEO of the merged company and was bought out by Berkshire Hathaway and converted into Berkshire Energy. So him, I think, along with this guy named George Sokol, ended up really transforming Berkshire Hathaway's energy business, and then I guess caught the eye of Warren Buffett. Hello. Thanks for doing that. There. Northern Electric.
He wants to sleep, I know. You need help?
He's not coming up. Oh, are you poking? Are you gonna go up?
Where'd you get the chalk?
Downstairs.
Our senior citizen. Alright, well, I'm gonna go to DC today. I'm first going to Rockville and then I'm going to DC.
Yeah. I heard.
Hi, Pokey.
Oh, shit.
Sorry, didn't mean to hurt you. We could someone to Rockville in like 30 minutes.
So, Western automakers are interested in South Africa because of the manganism, I think that's how that chemical element. I don't know how to pronounce it fully, but it's a cheaper alternative to cobalt and nickel that's commonly used in lithium ion batteries. I don't know for what, maybe to make the battery itself, but I don't know the actual technology behind it. So yeah, maybe that'll be something to look into, but my knowledge of chemistry, physics, engineering is pretty little. It's pretty small. With that being said, though, the Western automakers are looking at a lot of kind of remote South African parts that have these manganism mines and refineries that are a little bit more expensive than the ones in China. It turns out that China is one of the top producers of this element. Producers, refineries, and miners. You can't really produce it because it is one of those chemical elements. Maybe you can, but I feel like it's probably going to be a more natural thing that you just mine. And so the Western automakers are looking at South Africa because these companies are a little bit more transparent, and maybe the companies feel good from sourcing from kind of more responsible or transparent sourcer, manufacturer, compared to maybe ones in China. Manganese. Okay, manganese. I'm gonna wash my hand real quick. So what are some reasons why investors think that the S&P 500 bull surge is running into a valuation wall? So one of the reasons why investors think is, okay, let me start this. So I think this article was written with a lot of kind of backing or a lot of citations from this guy named Jordan Brooks from AQR Capital Management. I guess they're more of a kind of quantity investment advisory and investment firm. So this Jordan Brooks guy did some math and calculated that the average annual return in excess of the risk-free rates from the S&P 500 was about 11.9% from the past 10 years. And so he suggests that going forward in the next 10 years, it's going to be really difficult for the S&P 500 to keep up with this level of returns. And the reasons why are that in order for the S&P 500 to actually keep pace with the average of 11.9% in excess of the risk-free rate, it would have to reach kind of these unsustainable levels of PE multiples, and or would have to increase its real earnings growth to kind of this record level that the market hasn't experienced before, which is entirely possible because, there's always a record new level of people in the world. There's also maybe innovative technologies that really spur economic development. But the chances of those things happening may not be as likely as what he suggests might happen, which is a kind of lower excess return, maybe 7%, 8%, of more reasonable real growth of 4.5%.
Why is he looking at me like that?
I guess he misses you.
So he was barking at me literally 5 minutes ago. Damn, it's cold here, man.
Yeah. So, I think another thing was that the consensus estimates for returns in 2024 is about 11%, 2025 12%, and
Wanna go in here? Wanna go in here?
those may or may not be sustainable. It's difficult to see.
Alrighty. Well, I'm gonna.
Also, there's another chart that showed that in the past 10 years, there hasn't been more than repeated, I think 4 repeated quarters of earnings decline. I think one was in 2023. Oh, sorry, not 2023, 2013, maybe 2014. The other was, I think, 2020. And then, not too sure when the other one was. 2022. 2015, 2016, never mind. Okay. What is the trend among renters versus homeowners observed by the WSJ? So renters are actually kind of outnumbering the number of homeowners, I believe. That's what the current trend is. It seems like a lot of people in the current economy are choosing to rent due to flexibility, but also, maybe more importantly, the the rise in interest rates, and also the affordability of homes. And this is another video by Dwayne Rubain, another WSJ reporter, that cited Redfin, saying that home affordability was about 15%, meaning 50% of homes in the US are affordable. And so I'm sure that is deterring a lot of renters from actually purchasing homes themselves. But there's also kind of this maybe luxury lifestyle. There's a rise in these kind of so-called luxury apartments that is affordable for people that want to rent, but to actually purchase can be kind of expensive. And so those who are kind of used to this lifestyle would choose to rather rent and keep their lifestyle compared to having to settle for something a little bit less. Higher flexibility when it comes to renting, high interest rates for mortgages, and expensive house prices. Okay, but still, okay. Also, I guess I could have talked about the charts here. Higher flexibility when it comes to renting, high interest rates for mortgages, expensive house prices. So people with more money with higher incomes are actually choosing to rent, but the number of people that are actually renting is still dominated by people who make less than $50,000. Okay. What is DPP? What is the trend for DPPs? So DPP is a digital product passport, and this is kind of this new technology that's really built upon the existing technology of blockchains and NFTs. So some of the big kind of competitors in the space, I believe Aura and Aries, or Aries, something like that. Could be getting the names wrong. But this is kind of a digital stamp or passport, or maybe kind of identification for goods. And specifically this case, I saw this on the business of fashion. So it seems like it's a big trend for fashionable goods, especially luxury goods that cost thousands of dollars. It's a good way for people to authenticate the product themselves, or the product itself, and also kind of see where the product was made from, understand the supply chain and the manufacturing behind the product. And so I think the trend for these digital product passports is that it's kind of this new thing that's being developed, but is also likely going to be regulated and pushed upon products in the future by the European Union. I think there was some legislation passed in early 2023, that suggested that these digital product passports might be some type of necessity for manufacturers and retailers in the future. Ariane or a blockchain. Western automakers are interested in South Africa due to the availability of the manganese chemical element that is a cheaper alternative to cobalt and nickel that's used in lithium-ion batteries for these Western automakers, that are kind of making the transition from these internal combustion engines that are gasoline, oil-based, to more electrical vehicles or maybe electrical hybrid vehicles. And so these automakers are looking at parts of rural South Africa to kind of source the raw and refined manganese from some local refineries and minor companies. And the reason why they're looking here instead of, let's say, China, which is one of the top producers, is because they see that they view these companies in South Africa as being a little bit more transparent, a little bit more responsible compared to the Chinese counterparts. And I guess it makes them feel good, it makes the consumers feel good. And so they're really looking at South Africa, making investments in Mexico, I think Czech Republic, Botswana, so in Europe, Central America, and Africa. Huh. Did I not? Maybe not. I hope that the Friday ones didn't get deleted, because I spent a good amount of time on that one. So I'm opening up my other computer. Oh man, crossing my heart, crossing my fingers. Monster beverages. $59. Wow. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, honestly. 71,000. Oh my god. 5 times. Jeez. Do I have scissors? Do I have scissors, you asked?
I actually see some right here.
Okay. Okay, nice. So I do have them, but they're just in here. So I change deck. Cards. Okay. Nice. So what are some reasons why investors think the S&P 5 bull surge is running into a valuation wall? What are the reasons why investors think? Okay, so maybe not. I keep jumping ahead, even though I shouldn't be. But the article was basically kind of citing the calculations done by AQR principal Jordan Brooks, and he suggests that the S&P 500 has had a really great performance in the past 10 years of 11.9% in excess of the risk-free rates, and I believe this is a real return, so after accounting for inflation. But he also suggests that in order for the S&P to continuous performance in the next 10 years, it's going to have to sustain these unsustainable levels of cyclical PE ratios and also cyclical PE, I guess ratios, multiples, and also have some pretty high real earnings growth. And so I remember there's a chart that he cited here, or that he ended up making, showing the combination of the cyclical adjusted PE ratios and then also the real earnings growth of, I guess, companies within the S&P 500 as a whole. And if there were a 4.5% real earnings growth for the next 10 years, then that would result in a 55 cyclically adjusted price earnings ratio for companies that earn a cyclically adjusted P ratio in order for the S&P 500 to return 11.9%, which is higher than the cyclically adjusted P ratio in the tech bubble in 1990, I believe, 1999. And so that just means that it's going to be really high. And right now, I think the cyclically adjusted P ratio is around 30. So in order for these multiples, I guess, for these returns to be sustainable, then he believes that there's 3 things that need to happen. First, earnings need to grow and consistently grow. Second, dividends must also grow as well. And third, valuations must kind of expand. So multiple expansion, meaning that multiples are just getting higher. So the price that people are paying for, let's say, earnings is just going higher because it's going higher. Maybe due to expectations or whatnot. Oh, last thing is that the 2024-2025 consensus of 11-12% growth may be a bit unreasonable, but there's also another chart that is in this article that shows in the past 10 years from 2013 2023, there's only been 3 periods of kind of earnings growth, let's say 2 or 3 consecutive quarters of earnings growth in 2015, 2020, and also 2021 to 2022. Oh, I guess 2023 is 2022, 2023. Okay, what is a Santa Claus rally? So the Santa Claus rally is kind of this phenomenon in the last week of the year, so like the last week of December, first week of January. There's usually a kind of a rally, last minute rally of stocks that has occurred most of the time, I think all the time in the past 10 years, and then maybe in the last 20 or so years it occurred almost like 90% of the time. I could be wrong on that. I'm pretty sure there's a chart that can confirm or deny my statement. But the Santa Claus rally, I think what had happened this year in 2023 is that there kind of has been this last minute rally in stocks. I remember last week, I think December 23rd marked the 8th consecutive week of gains for the S&P 500, and so that hasn't really been the last week of December, but the last 8 weeks, and so maybe towards the end of the year there's a little bit more volume in the stock market. Who knows? Santa Claus rally is a phenomenon. Results in that. Happen. So, okay. What are the metrics of the S&P 500, NASDAQ, and Dow Jones? Year to date. Okay, so S&P 500 is up 25% year to date, 44% year to date for NASDAQ, 14%. So DPP, Digital Product Passport, is the kind of idea of being able to identify digitally what type of products, some type of hard good, and maybe that comes in the form of a QR code that you scan that's on the product, or maybe something else. But usually, from what I saw in this article, it's these QR codes. And this digital product passport is kind of this new legislation that's being pushed by the EU. I'm not too sure if it's passed or not, but it's definitely under discussion. And the EU is wanting to kind of increase the transparency and educate consumers on what they're buying and kind of the supply chain and manufacturing that went through, that was used in order to create this product, but also be able to have a way to verify the ownership of, let's say, a product, and also verify the legitimacy or the legitimacy of a product, especially very luxury products that cost a few $1,000s. As a consumer, it's important to ensure that these products are actually real. And so the underlying technology behind this is built on existing blockchain and NFT technologies. I think some of the big players in the space is Aura, or Aura blockchain, which is kind of this, what do you call it? Consortium of, I guess, a non-profit consortium of different luxury brands that came together in order to kind of build this blockchain technology to help serve each of the companies within the consortium. And then also there is, I think, Arni, which is another company, maybe not a nonprofit consortium, but maybe a for-profit company that's also developing the technology behind some of these digital product passports. Ariane. Aura. Helps track the information. Okay. Oh, so this is Dion Rabouin. I think Dion Rabouin. Okay. So, the 3 big reasons why the U.S. is in an economic expansion but a confidence recession. So this was a video that was on the YouTube channel of Dion Rabouin. So I think the 3 big reasons why the U.S. is in an economic expansion but a confidence recession is because, one, the real wage growth is kind of falling for people in the U.S., and also the cost of goods, there's a declining affordability in there's declining affordability in the US market, and also a rise in borrowing and a decline in personal savings. So a decline in personal savings also is a result of a decline in disposable income. And so some of the numbers that kind of support this hypothesis as of Q3 2023, I think the first one to support the hypothesis of declining real wages, Dion cites some data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis that has data about the actual real wage growth in the US, and shows that it has been declining, I think, from September until October, but has risen since March. Has risen in November, April, May, June, July. I don't know. And then that's what I can remember from the increase in real wages. In terms of declining affordability, or I guess rising prices, so he cited some data from the company Redfin, which is kind of this real estate company and real estate analytics company, that suggested the average mortgage payment is around $3,000, which is I think a lot more than what the average US consumer can reasonably pay. And that is backed up by the fact that around 15% of homes in the US are considered to be affordable by Redfin. And then there's also the fact that car payments have been estimated to be around an average of $1,000. So when we're working with averages, it might be kind of misleading compared to medians. And I haven't really looked into that too, but maybe that's something interesting to look at, because there are houses that could kind of skew the averages. And with that, I think there's also something related to child payments. I don't fully remember what he was talking about there, and I don't think I wrote down about it too. And then I think the decline in real wages and the increase in prices or decrease in affordability kind of are catalysts behind the third reason why there's a confidence recession, in the sense that there is a decrease in personal savings and an increase in borrowing. And that can be seen in the $1 trillion worth of credit card debt outstanding. I think that's something measured by the Fed data from St. Louis Fed, which is, I think, around 4% of GDP, US GDP in the US as of 2022. Maybe 2023 GDP, it's a bit higher, 24, 25 million. Like 4% growth. Yeah, I'm not too sure. 24 trillion, 25 trillion. So that's kind of this record level of credit card debt outstanding, but then again, there is kind of this record level of GDP. So maybe with the rise in GDP, there also is this kind of rise in credit card debt. But I'm not too sure what the percentage is, if that's reasonable relative to the actual GDP itself, if this level of debt is sustainable, like 4%, 4 to 5% of credit card debt, which I feel like is a lot more short term compared to, let's say, mortgages or business loans used for some type of fixed asset, used to purchase some fixed asset or build infrastructure. I feel like credit card debt is more short term and usually need to be paid off within, let's say, a few months or a year. And if not, then the crazy interest rates are surely not going to be able to be paid back. And so with that being said, there's been a 5 straight quarter decline for the personal savings rates in the past 5 quarters, I think. So starting in Q2 2022, for people that have been making less than 70K, the savings rate has been negative actually for the past 5 quarters for those people, and also the disposable income has declined for these people for the past 5 quarters. And so that suggests that these people are maybe taking up a little bit more leverage than is sustainable, and they may be facing some type of default unless they are able to kind of spend less. So maybe there's a bit of austerity there, and also increase their wages, or maybe get some relief from the government. Households with less than 70K income have seen disposable income decline for the last 8 quarters. So I think that was that's from Moody's Analytics. Average monthly mortgage payment is around $3,000. .8% personal savings rate in October, less than half the long-term average. Source: the Bureau of Economic Analysis. People earning less than 70K a year have had a negative personal savings rate for 5 quarters in a row. It seems they're spending more than they own. Household debt balances increased by $228 million in the U.S. in Q3, $54 billion Q3 2023. Another revolving plans. So defaults on consumer loans rose to the highest level in the past decade, 2.6%. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna pause on this for now because I've been spending a decent amount of time on. Yeah, man, I just spent another hour just trying to review the new stuff that I went over, but that's good now because now some of the numbers are kind of sitting in my head, and maybe I'm spending a little more time than I need to kind of remember this stuff, but I think it's good to know in the back of my head. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do now then is head over to Tiddly. Week 2. Finished parser for income statement, balance sheet, cash flows, rents. Okay. Oops. So Saturday, December 30th. Okay, so finish reading the news, learn some stuff on about unrealistic valuations, EPPs, and what's the last? Manganese. Yeah, see ya, have fun. Taking a break. I just want you to enjoy yourself, and I think that's good. Although you should ask Julia how Korea was.
About what?
You should ask Julia how Korea was. Yeah. Taking a break from the screens. We'll come back to write the code for income statements. Alright. Need some water, I'm thirsty as fuck. Let's get some push-ups in, yeah. I'll be back. low. 55. my tea, ready to work. So back from break. Starting the income statement. Oh, okay. I don't know if I can code like this. Yeah, no, it's probably hard. Alright, gotta restructure my desk a little bit. I gotta see where I left off on the income statement stuff. Yeah, maybe I can add a web scraper app. Maybe a list of to-dos. Parse any report. Okay, so maybe company.py. Oops. Class company. So returns none. Maybe, let's say, financial statements is equal to income statement is equal to cash balance sheet statement is equal to, and then okay, so new reports. Reports. to name string. So yeah. Defining new class for income for a company. Importing the inner reports. Okay. Predict. Oh my god. So here. Beautiful year of April. Okay, so now I'm defining working on extract items function to extract the items from the second parts of the report. So this contains the financial statement section. So let's try, we have part 2, item 5, item 6, item 7, item. Be in a table too, I see. Six, seven, 7A, and here item 8, item 9. Item 9A. Item 9B, item 9C. So item 5, item 6, item 7, 7A. Item 8, item 9. Procedures, other information, okay. So we have items, item 5, item 6, item 7, item 7A, item 8, item 9, item 9A, item 9C. Parts 3, 4. Okay, so to do finish item extractor for parts 3 and 4. Extract items. Okay, so I got part 2 done. Try seeing if this works. Extracting items.
吃过饭了哈，软眼。
Mm-hmm.
我就不吃了。
Yeah, sure.
中午。
So we can create a wrapper function. Self. I think we want that. So this is going to be a wrapper function that will parts of the parameters. List of all terms, say, dictionary. Key is the name, value is equal to value list. I'm thinking of some stuff that's cringe right now. Something that I did earlier in like middle school. Why? Why? All right. So this returns dict dictionary key value pair. So key is name of item, main value is the beautiful soup elements. Okay. Of all super object of all elements in beautiful super object of all elements in the part in the item. Okay. Excuse me. Maybe it will be interesting. Structure. So 2-layer addition. First layer. Part name values. So for parts and parts elements list. One. So then we have parts item date. Is there a way to combine? Combining dictionaries. Oh man. Okay. We can unpack a dictionary. Then maybe a 2-layer dictionary might.
item dict. So parts item dict. So 2. Parts item dict to ID sharing, so parts item dict. Parts item. What is this text? Self-extract items, we need parts and then part number. Still range. So notes. Okay, notes. Currently iterating through part 1 and 2 only. Return item dict. Restart kernel. Oh, should be 0 2. I think I got some indexing part wrong. 0 to 2. Okay, so I think we got all the items for parts 2. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. I gotta go. Okay, bathroom time, bathroom time. Let's see. Okay, I'm back. So we have all of the items now. Seems like, right? Part 2. So maybe now we can extract the financial statement. Now we can do in-depth. Should I return? I'm not too sure what I should return here, I'm not gonna lie. Break maybe? Extracts income from part 2, item 8. Annual report. Parameters. Terms. Pushing like it. Okay. So we want an income statement. Okay. So we can extract item 8 is equal to for key in item abfc dot keys dot, oh, okay. And so there's this problem where sometimes the filers don't actually include the financial statements in the item A, but will just include, let's say, C index to consolidated financial statements, page F1 of this annual. Okay. That's not good. And it's confusing. SEC editor.
我现在不要吃。我现在不要吃。
So getting stuck a little bit because the VF Corporation, because there are some filings that don't include We'll include it in a later section. Part 4. Compile. Oh man. So I'm wondering how we can get the actual annual report. Fiscal year end. Oh, okay, so there's document period and date. So found document period. So that could be though, might not be the very. It could be that more recent items have that, but let's see. through all the elements. So loop through all the possible. Table. Nice. AF 10K. It's probably a lot here. Spiral. Dictionary. Metric. Values. Statement nameless. Cells. Okay. Cost of goods, sales, gross profit, store, distribution expense. It's store and distribution expense. Stores and distribution expense, okay. Oh, so A&F marketing, general and administrative expense. A&F asset impairment exclusive of flagship store exit charges. Let's take a look at the metric values. Net sales. Import numpy as MP. Import pandas as PD. Okay. PD dot data frame metric values. Okay. And we display PD. Yeah. All arrays must have the same length. Yeah, well, okay, why does diluted have so much though? Okay. Oh, the weighted average shares outstanding. Okay. So there's a so we should add a note here. Note the that's a more recent one. I wonder if there's, let's see. Abercrombie & Fitch, SEC Edgar. Yeah, so that's interesting because there's income statements with the XBRL and there's income statements without the XBRL stuff, so might have to account for both of those occasions. I am getting a call too, so might have to end the stream real quick. Alright. Bye.